There are lots of myths, lots of misconceptions, and a lot of questions I get all the time about sleep. So tune in to today's episode where we explore that and we go deep with some of the myths and misconceptions, but also a lot of the common questions that I get asked about sleep. So I'm Dr. Rita Marie-Scalzo. Welcome back to the channel, and I look forward to sharing with you this podcast episode recording. And just listen in and enjoy. So one of the things that people believe is that napping can make up for less sleep during the night, and that we can make up for it on the weekend. And if we don't get enough sleep, we can make up for it. And that is very, very far from the truth. Yes, we can improve health by getting more sleep later. Of course we can, but it's not going to make up for the lack of sleep. It's not going to make up for that. We can take a 10, 15-minute nap to help restore energy. Great. It's good. It's really good to do that, but it's just not going to make up for the lower amount of sleep. Another thing people ask me about is, can lack of sleep cause my skin to have a problem? Like, can it cause breakouts? Can it cause collagen to not stay firm? What kind of effect does lack of sleep have on skin? And I know if you've gotten lack of sleep for a while or you have patients, you'll see like the saggy skin under the eyes. There's a number of ways that inadequate sleep can affect the skin. One is inadequate sleep raises cortisol levels, and cortisol triggers inflammation. Inflammation has the ability to break down proteins in the skin that keep the skin smooth. So collagen-related proteins. We need to have good sleep in order to have good skin. And if you can't get people to sleep because it's good for them, throw out the appetite and the skin pieces, and a lot of people will go, oh, okay, I hear ya, I'm going to do it. So the other thing is inflammation can make your skin more prone to acne and more sensitive to allergic reactions. I start to wonder a little bit about teenagers, right? They go through puberty, and yeah, there's a lot of hormonal shifts that are happening, but they're also shifting to, getting a lot of sleep when they're kids to getting very little sleep because of their busy schedules and because they just want to stay up and text their friends and do all that kind of stuff. So those are important things to consider. Another myth, I think, is exercise before sleep is bad. It's going to keep you awake. And a lot of people believe this, and they say you should exercise first thing in the morning. But I think it varies from person to person. Some studies on the effect of exercise before sleep have shown for some people it makes no difference. And in fact, they sleep more soundly, maybe because it tires them out and their muscles get drained. But personally, I do well if I exercise before sleep. If I haven't had an opportunity to lift weights or do push-ups or some of those things that I like to do, I can do them right before bed and it doesn't affect my sleep. But other people it affects. We talked to Ann Johnson on one of our episodes, and she was a very firm believer of doing exercise first thing in the morning because it does wake up the circadian rhythm. And it makes sense that exercise before sleep could increase cortisol levels and cause people to then not sleep very well. So I think that's one of those things you want to take individual, person by person. Another thing that is a misconception that you're going to say, no, you're wrong, is that we only dream during REM, rapid eye movement sleep. And that's a commonly held belief, but in fact, some people can dream in other stages other than REM. And what's found in some of the studies I looked at were that when you dream in REM, it's a different kind of a dream. It's a different quality of dream than when you dream in non-REM. And it may be less vivid, less imaginative, but we can dream in stages other than REM. Let's talk about lack of sleep and growth. Like, can lack of sleep as a kid or teenager stunt your growth? And I've heard people say, well, I didn't sleep very much and I'm short. Well, maybe it's my genes, but maybe it's not your genes, right? Maybe it does have to do with lack of sleep because guess what? Growth hormone is really important for growth, right? It's important for us when we're in our, early stages of childhood and then into adolescence, maybe less important for growth because we usually reach skeletal maturity at, age 18 to 20, depending on whether you're male or female. But here's the deal. We have less growth hormone when we don't sleep well. Growth hormone actually peaks in that first 2 hours after falling asleep. And it does better, studies show, before midnight. And we get a larger peak of growth hormone in that first early part of sleep. And now people who do cycles and they do, various night shifts and all that may adjust to it. We don't really know for sure. But lack of sleep during childhood, during adolescence, can actually result in stunted growth because of the impact that it has on growth hormones. So what does it mean if you haven't had enough sleep and you're tired and dragging through the day and suddenly have a jolt of energy? Is that good? Does that mean your body's repairing and it's regenerating? No, it probably means that your adrenals are kicking in, you're tired, you have to get through the day, and you basically gave yourself a shot of adrenaline. And adrenaline will cause you to wake up more. And the same thing with cortisol, and it can cause your heart rate to go up and a lot of things that make you feel like you have a jolt of energy. So when you have clients who tell you, oh yeah, I'm okay, I don't get enough sleep, but a couple of hours later, I get this jolt of energy, I'm doing fine. Chances are they're not doing fine. What about caffeine before bed? Yeah, we always tell people, if you're going to do caffeine, make sure you stop at like 2 in the afternoon or 4 in the afternoon. Not a good idea to continue to drink coffee or soft drinks that are caffeinated or even hot cocoa into the evening. Does that really affect sleep? And my answer is yes. And also, it depends. It depends on the person. It depends on whether they are genetically a fast metabolizer of caffeine or a slow metabolizer of caffeine. But in general, most people don't know what their genes are. So I would say the advice to give people is don't do caffeine after 2 or 4 in the afternoon because it can affect sleep. It affects the levels of adenosine in the body, and adenosine is that wakefulness. And if you don't have the adenosine levels drop, it's hard to fall asleep. It's hard to get into a good night's sleep. So, for some people, it's going to be individual. I personally am not a big fan of anybody doing much in the way of caffeine, just because it has an effect on the lining of the digestive tract and it can thin and damage it. And also because, as we talked about in our genetics section, caffeine and estrogen are metabolized down similar pathways. And when we drink too much in the way of caffeine and we have disruption in some of these genetic pathways, what we have is the body can't detoxify those 4-hydroxyestrones, which are DNA damagers. So I really caution people about doing caffeine at all. So this is the question of the day. Does the body get used to less sleep? I used to believe this. I got used to doing 4 to 5 hours a night. I think part of it started in college because I was just a night owl and stayed up late to study. But then as I had kids and the kids kept me up, half the night or 3/4 of the night or all night in some cases, I get used to less sleep. And as I got used to the less sleep, I felt like I was getting used to the less sleep because I could function better. But in reality, I really did need that longer sleep. And there were subtle things happening to me that were negative on my body that were impacted by the less sleep. In reality, if you look at studies, there's maybe 1 in 4 million people that actually function okay on 4 to 5 hours of sleep. The rest of us need much more. And what happens when we don't get enough sleep and we get quote unquote used to it, we just get used to functioning at a much lower level. Highly recommend that you read the book, Why We Sleep. He talks about some really scary studies of brain responsivity that happen when we don't get enough sleep. So even though we think that we're getting used to it and we think that we're functioning okay, in reality, sorry, we're not. We really aren't. It is damaging no matter what. You can go back to the episodes on blood sugar and lack of sleep and the episode on appetite and lack of sleep and discover that, we're going to be more hungry. It may lead to more obesity and diabetes and blood sugar imbalance and type 3 diabetes, which happens to be Alzheimer's. So really encourage people, don't believe that you're one of these, if that you're the 1 in 4 million people that are okay with 4 or 5 hours of sleep a night. You're not. And if you are, then I'd go buy a lottery ticket because, if you can do a 1 in 4 million, you might get lucky on the lottery. Another question that I hear from people is that sleeping too much is harmful. And many people debunk that, like, oh, just sleep as much as you can. But in reality, when you look at the studies, there is a problem with sleeping too much. Usually, if somebody is consistently getting more than 9 or 10 hours of sleep a night, then you want to look for an underlying dysfunction. There may be some underlying illness. Now, of course, during an acute illness, a flu, a cold, whatever, we need more sleep. During a period where there's been a broken bone or some sort of injury or surgery, we need more sleep to help repair. But for the average person, if they're like, I'm fine, I get 10 hours of sleep a night and I could sleep another 5 hours if I had the time to do it, I'd be looking for an underlying dysfunction. What a lot of people find is that if you wake up earlier than you have to get up, earlier than the alarm rings, then you go, oh no, I got to go back to sleep. And so if you go back to sleep, oftentimes people say they feel worse, they feel more groggy when they wake up. Some of that can be attributed to interrupting a sleep cycle and then not going back and doing another full sleep cycle. Like say you wake up in the middle of a sleep cycle because there was a loud noise or because you had to go to the bathroom or whatever, and then you go back to sleep. You may not have a full hour and a half, hour, 45 minutes, which would be a full sleep cycle. And then you're going to actually wake up when you have to get up in the middle of a sleep cycle. And waking up in the middle of the sleep cycle can make you feel groggy. So there's a whole process that I teach in our NEPT program and in our blood sugar balancing programs that talks about how to help people determine what their sleep cycle is and how to determine what time to go to bed based on what time they need to get up in the morning. So highly recommend that you research on that. Another question I get a lot about is what's the best sleep device? We know right now that people are really getting into biohacking and looking at the body and how well are we sleeping? How much REM are we getting? How much deep sleep are we getting? What's the heart rate during sleep? What's the heart rate variability? And there are a number of devices that can do that. There's the Oura Ring, which is one that I personally use. Do I use it because it's the best, or do I use it because I happen to get it and I use it and that's it? Well, there are other things that you can do as well. So let me talk about those. So in terms of sleep devices, the Oura Ring has a bunch of electrodes on it. You put it on the finger, and then it's measuring circulation. It's measuring blood flow through the finger. There's some algorithms. I don't really understand or know the algorithms. I know I wear it, and it seems to be pretty accurate. So when I wear it, I know, okay, how much deep sleep did I get? How much actual, full sleep did I get? What was my heart rate during the sleep? Some people don't have as good a result as I do, like consistency. They find that, well, I was laying awake for 2 hours and the ring said I was sleeping, or I was sleeping the whole night. I didn't wake up at all. And the ring said I woke up 3 times. So, you have to play with these and talk to people and see what works best for them. There may be people who have a lot of EMFs in the room or who are very EMS sensitive that might not do well with it. But we have the Oura Ring that measures that. We have the variety of watches. I bought one, I think it was called the Polar. I didn't like it because I didn't want to wear a watch during sleep. I thought it was awkward and uncomfortable. So I didn't wear it for long enough to know how accurate it was. I know that there's the Apple Watch and there's the Fitbit, which is another band that you wear around your wrist. There's a Garmin watch. So there's a number of different devices that you can use to help people measure their sleep and determine how well are they sleeping, how long are they sleeping, how's their REM sleep, how's their deep sleep. One of the things I do find, and going back to the sleeping too much piece, right? Some nights I'll get 8 hours of sleep, but only a half an hour to an hour of deep. That's not very often for me because I'm really good about getting a lot of deep. But other nights, whereas I have to stay up late to get something done, I go to bed late, and I only sleep for 4 or 5 hours, I find that I still get that same amount of deep sleep. I still may get 2 hours or 3 hours, in fact, one time happened, of deep sleep. And here's the difference. I woke up a couple of nights ago. I think it was 9 hours or 8 3/4 hours of sleep. And I woke up feeling groggy. And I'm like, what is up with that? Well, it turned out I only had 30 minutes of deep sleep. And then there's other nights where I don't get enough sleep. I may get only 4 or 5 hours, but I wake up feeling okay because I've gotten a lot of deep sleep. So it's very personalized. Yes, we know that long term, people do need to get enough sleep, and they do need to get sufficient sleep to recharge their body, to keep their appetite under control, to keep their blood sugar under control, and to cause the body to be able to regenerate and rejuvenate and have a good brain the next day, right? It's really important for focus. And I think back of the times that I got lack of sleep, my kids were little, and then I get out and drive a car. And then when I looked at the research in why we sleep, I feel like, oh my God, I was lucky. Lucky that I didn't have an impairment of my judgment, my quick responses when I really would have needed them, like, a near miss or an accident. So it's really important to just get in there and teach people how to sleep well. Help them to get the sleep under control. Sometimes it takes a long time. Sometimes it's obvious that they're just eating too close to bedtime or they're worried about things. There's a number of reasons, but there's a lot of times when it's harder. So you're going to have to dig deeper and you're going to have to see, is the room dark enough? Is their room cold enough? And all the cool stuff we talked about in this series. So that's it for the myths and misconceptions. If you have other myths and misconceptions and questions about other topics, be sure to go to Reinvent Healthcare, and we have a little place where you can put in your questions, and we're going to look at answering them on future episodes. So in the meantime, download our free sleep guide at www.reinventhealthcare.com/sleep. Go back and listen to others in the series if you haven't already listened to them. We have really good episodes. We have really good guests that have spoken, and it's going to open up your eyes about sleep. So the more you stay in touch with helping people to master all of these lifestyle habits, to get their diet under control, to get their meal timing under control, to get them to actually go to bed, the more you're going to have success with helping people to restore and regenerate and feel their best. And that's going to help you to grow a thriving and fulfilling practice, reach more people, and help me in this mission to change the face of healthcare and reinvent healthcare. So download the sleep guide, reinventhealthcare.com/sleep. And until next time, shine on.